Ever feel like you're getting kind of mixed signals out there about how available you're supposed to be in a relationship?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Someone sent us this, it's almost like a tongue-in-cheek guide for men, basically, all about how to appear less interested.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's definitely raising some red flags for me.
Sounds like we're about to dive into the world of questionable dating advice.
Let's do it. Okay, so this guide kicks off with this whole cultivate your masculine persona thing.
Okay.
It even goes as far as to tie it to testosterone levels. Claims women are hardwired to find this irresistible.
Right.
What is that all about?
Well, it's trying to oversimplify things by saying biological programming as this way to kind of like sum up attraction. But honestly, human connection, it's so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's like we only respond to one specific musical note. Like we're far too complex and interesting for that.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So it's not really about hitting some like magic testosterone level then, I'm guessing.
No, not at all. And honestly, this advice is relying on outdated stereotypes.
Right.
It's not only inaccurate, but also really limiting.
Yeah.
Attraction is way more like a symphony, not just a solo act. It thrives on shared values and emotional connection, personal preferences, all those things.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so what about this idea in the guide about spending more time with your friends as this, like, strategic move?
Right.
It feels a little bit like we're back in high school all of a sudden.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to make someone jealous. I mean, while it's framed as a tactic to kind of spark jealousy in your partner, there is a valuable point in there somewhere.
Okay.
Having your own fulfilling life outside of a romantic relationship is crucial for everyone involved. Think of it this way. You're bringing more to the table when you have your own passions and experiences.
So it's not about, like, using your friends as pawns. It's about being a whole and interesting person.
Exactly. Like imagine only being allowed to read one book or watch one movie or even listen to one song for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, how boring would that be? Your partner probably feels the same.
That's a really great point. Okay. This guide also mentions this idea of, like, surrounding yourself with women in your social circle as this way to make your partner jealous.
Okay.
Is there any truth to that at all?
I mean, while it might trigger insecurity in some people, that often just means there are already some issues within the relationship itself, Like, imagine if a friend only felt secure in your friendship when you were totally isolated.
Yeah.
That wouldn't exactly speak to a healthy dynamic, would it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It sounds like, honestly, this guide is promoting this very, like, reactive approach to relationships rather than fostering a sense of genuine trust and just open communication.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You really did. It's like building a house on a foundation of suspicion.
Yeah.
Like it's bound to collapse sooner or later. A healthy relationship thrives on open communication, mutual respect, and the freedom to have your own life without resorting to like manipulative games.
So instead of trying to, like, manufacture jealousy, the focus should be on building a foundation of trust and just communicating openly with each other.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It's about creating this environment where both partners feel secure and empowered to be themselves.
Speaking of trust and communication, this guide also gets into some, well, pretty questionable territory when it comes to emotional honesty.
Okay.
It basically encourages men to hide their true selves, to
Pardon me?
try and appear more mysterious. Is that, like, a thing?
This is where this guide really misses the mark.
Okay.
Trying to like build a relationship on anything other than authenticity, it's like building a house of cards,
Yeah.
It's so fragile, it's bound to crumble.
Yeah, it seems kind of counterintuitive, right? Like, shouldn't being genuine be the goal?
Absolutely. Think about the people you feel most comfortable with in your life, like the ones you can truly be yourself around. Chances are it's because they've shown you their own authenticity, right?
Yeah.
And that creates a safe space for real connection.
It's about being vulnerable and letting someone see your, like, vulnerabilities and your quirks and everything, and trusting that they're going to still accept you
100%.
for who you truly are.
It takes courage to be vulnerable. It really does.
Yeah.
But in those moments of shared authenticity, that's where real intimacy grows.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so this guide also has some advice on expressing, like, disappointment, and it suggests, like, acting indifferent or even hinting that, you could just walk away at any moment to kind of keep your partner on edge.
I don't know.
Does that not seem a little manipulative?
It's totally manipulative.
Yeah.
It's like this emotional rain cloud just hanging over the relationship, you know?
Right.
No one can really thrive in that kind of environment.
It's exhausting. So, I mean, instead of trying to keep someone in this constant state of uncertainty, it's more about...
Yeah. It's about fostering a sense of security and just appreciating each other.
Okay.
Think of it like, imagine the difference between a dance floor where everyone feels like they can just move freely and express themselves versus one where everyone's like terrified of stepping on each other's toes.
Oh, I'd much rather be on the first dance floor.
Right.
Yeah,
Which one sounds more fun?
for sure. So it's about creating a space for emotional expression rather than, like, a minefield of potential conflict.
Exactly. Healthy relationships are built on open and honest communication, not on playing games with each other's minds.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about authenticity, open communication. What about this whole concept of being emotionally unavailable to seem more desirable?
Right.
This guide suggests things like waiting like ages to reply to a text or just like being intentionally distant.
Right.
Is there any merit to that at all?
While it's healthy for people to have their own emotional space, and not rely on their partners for all of their validation, intentionally creating distance just to seem more desirable, that's misleading.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it'll backfire.
Because it creates this like push and pull thing that
Exactly.
can be really confusing.
Yeah. Imagine if a friend was constantly hot and cold with their availability.
Right.
It would be hard to feel secure in that friendship.
Totally. So instead of playing this like emotional hot and cold, it's more about...
It's about finding that healthy rhythm,
Yeah.
That works for both partners. Like being present and engaged when you're together, but also respecting each other's need for independence in their own space.
This whole conversation is making me think this guide is like equating independence with being emotionally unavailable.
Yeah.
And those aren't the same thing at all, are they?
Not even close. It's like, imagine you have a garden, right?
Yeah.
So full of all these different plants.
Yeah.
And they all have their own needs. Like some need more sun, some need more water. You don't love one plant less just because it needs something different.
That's such a good analogy. So it's about understanding and appreciating like each other's needs,
Exactly.
both individually and as a couple.
Exactly. Like finding that sweet spot where you can nurture your own growth while also tending to the relationship.
I like that a lot. Okay, this guide also mentions how a woman can never lose a man who basically makes her his entire world.
Right.
And it almost makes it sound like a good thing, which to me just sounds like a recipe for codependency.
It totally is.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that saying? Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
That applies to relationships too. When all of your happiness depends on one person, it creates a really unhealthy dynamic.
So instead of striving to be someone's whole world, what should we be doing?
Focus on building a fulfilling life that you're excited to share. Think about the things that make you feel energized and alive. Your hobbies, passions, friendships, they're all part of who you are.
Yeah, it's about like bringing your most vibrant self to the relationship, not just a shadow of yourself.
Exactly. When you're passionate about your own life, you just radiate this confidence that's so attractive.
Right.
Way more than any tactic or game.
That's so true. It's like this guide was trying to push this whole scarcity thing and playing hard to get,
Right.
but I feel like it accidentally revealed the real secret to having a great relationship.
And what's that?
Just be a whole and interesting person.
Yes, exactly. Embrace your passions. Nurture your friendships, Don't be afraid to prioritize your own well-being. That's not being selfish. That's how you build a healthy relationship.
So if we had to like sum up this whole guide in a sentence, what would it be?
Authenticity over manipulation. Every time.
I love that.
Instead of trying to control how people see you, just focus on being the best, most genuine version of yourself.
And that includes like being honest about your feelings?
Yeah.
Taking care of your own interests?
Yeah.
Communicating your needs directly?
All of it. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, vulnerability, not games and power struggles.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation, honestly. It's amazing how something as simple as a dating advice guide can lead to these really deep insights about relationships.
It's true. It reminds us to be wary of advice, especially relationship advice, and really think about what feels right.
Totally. So instead of trying to use these tactics to feel more secure, maybe the real journey starts with
Cultivating a deep sense of self-love.
Yeah.
Like when you know your worth, you don't need validation from other people or games to feel secure.
You are worthy of love and connection, just as you are. I love that.
Exactly. And when you come from that place of wholeness and authenticity, you're going to attract someone who appreciates you for you.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that the best relationships are those where we can just be ourselves.
Beautifully said. Embrace your authenticity. Keep nurturing those passions and never underestimate the power of genuine connection.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those conversations flowing.